Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.
We believe in this opportunity to work in Web3, and people coming in will be a massive shift.
There's a lot of opportunities that are not, they're lost, and their people's skills and their what they're really capable of doing is not able to be shined through right now.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome to another edition of Zero Authority, Community Edition. We have a great conversation planned for you today. We have Setzeus. He's an OG in the Stacks ecosystem. He's created Bitcoin Badgers. He's created the 100 Days of Clarity. He's been there. He's done it. We're going to have a great, lively conversation and talk about everything about Stacks, building on Bitcoin, and the crypto winter, and how's it been going through this year with Bitcoin ordinals as well. Crazy stuff. But before we join and talk about all these things, Setzeus, how are you, my friend?
I am wonderful. It's been just a great year in our space, I would say, and it's been really cool to see a lot of the macro theses we've all had come into play. And yeah, I just have stayed as busy as possible, helping out the ecosystem as much as I can, and been heads down building.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, it's great to be here. I've followed you for quite some time, since the Badger days and what all you've been up to. You've always been really helpful, and it seems like you're always willing to lend a hand and help people learn and grow. So I think this is the first time I've chatted with you, so it's great to be here.
Setzeus, this is the official first time that I'm talking to you as well. And I just want to send a personal thank you for all the stuff you do, all the joy and positivity you bring all the time, man. I've seen you from afar, and it's just been phenomenal to watch your journey in Stacks and Bitcoin.
Thank you. That means a lot. And yeah, and the fact that you guys are vocalizing that, thank you for that. And yeah, that's why I'm happy to be here. I know you guys are a name that consistently pop up in the community as well, and so anyone that is equally putting in effort, I'm more than happy to take a moment and hang out for a bit.
So I know you're a busy guy, but just tell us about crypto winter, how you've been staying busy, how's ordinals been keeping you busy. We're going to get into your 100 Days of Clarity. I'm a huge fan. I can't wait till our site is up and running so we can add the community hub and put those videos there.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. So how's the crypto? I mean, I haven't really noticed there's been one, right? I mean, like it's sure the price has been terrible, or not where they were in 2021, but there's been a flurry of just development activity where it doesn't necessarily feel like we've been in a winter, but I realize I have a very, individual perspective in that manner, because I've definitely been just in the weeds. And yeah, I've been taking the opportunity where, a lot of people either put the game on pause because, there's a winter, or a lot of people weren't sure about Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2. And I think everyone here was just at the right place at the right time, and sort of, doubling and tripling down when we sort of knew that things were going to play out in our way.
Yeah, I've told Zero this before. I feel like I'm thankful for all the things we didn't have in the last bear market as well. Like we're kind of, the Stacks community is one that is been growing slowly over time, and we kind of have been able to avoid a lot of the things you see that went wrong in other communities. And it's just nice to see that kind of the slow and mediated approach is the right approach. And the people, like just about everybody I know here in Stacks is, I mean, I don't check the price hardly at all. I get, the only time I see anything about price is when people talk about it on Twitter. Like I don't.
Right.
So true.
Yep.
So Setzeus, how did you get started in Bitcoin and Stacks?
Buying weed on the Silk Road Marketplace my undergrad year is when I first came across Bitcoin. And I will admit, back then I hadn't actually written a single line of code. I'm a very late blossomer to the world of programming and software engineering. And I just remember I remember reading the white paper because I wanted to understand, what the hell what the hell a Bitcoin was. And I remember knowing and feeling like I came across something very impactful and not understanding it enough. And that was the very first instance of it. And I would say afterwards, I went to like a hackathon with my team and my co-founders at the time. That was Bitcoin related, and that was probably the first time getting into development. And I would say I would definitely say for the better now, but at one point in like 2015, I switched over to like Ethereum, and I just was very, very much into Ethereum, a lot more than Bitcoin, learning Solidity. And I took, a couple of years in that space, and that sort of led into me eventually coming back into Bitcoin.
Yeah, the Ethereum space back then, I mean, that was where all of the innovation was going on, right? You had the Bitcoin people arguing with the Bitcoin Cash people over here, and then but over in Ethereum, they were building DeFi and the kind of infrastructure for NFTs and all this fun stuff. And it was exciting.
And I would say that's what I really is. Once it became very clear to me that Bitcoin is the better value proposition for being hard money, it became clear that I should have, I wanted to swing back to Bitcoin, but I couldn't let go of the fact that Ethereum validated, there's like the best use case for hard digital money is going to be first with the digital economy. And if you don't have that along to go with it, it's going to be very hard to get use cases outside of the most, the most basic, which are still extremely valuable, right? Just normal transactions. But yeah, that's what attracted me to Stacks. Is it seems that it was people that took the best of both worlds, right? Understand what and respect what Bitcoin's intention is, but also don't scoff and turn their nose at what Ethereum has validated and brought to the table.
I was just talking to Eloisa at CoinFabric. CoinFabric is one of the premier organizations doing security audits, and if you need a security audit, you should look into them. They're super smart and super intelligent. But she was saying that she really loves working with people in Stacks. And the best way I describe it, because I found Stacks after Bitcoin and Ethereum, the best way I describe it is we believe in the principles of Bitcoin and decentralization and permissionless, but we also believe in the innovation that Ethereum has pushed forward.
Right.
And then you get like the intellectuals who have like some background in tech or being professionals. You always feel like you have mature arguments. It isn't like a bunch of kids running around. And that's kind of like how I feel about Stacks.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. We've carved out our nice little community. It stayed niched for better or worse. And, if you're looking at the price for worse, if you're looking at the development in the community, it seems like, for better. Everyone that stuck through is now, very tightly knit, knows each other, supports each other. Mm-hmm. And yeah, hopefully it scales better and better, though I also don't, I don't doubt that at one point the noise will become a lot louder than the signal, but that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to scaling networks.
I'm sure
Yeah.
at some point, and it's felt like this with the ordinals now that Stacks is kind of leading ordinals and being the Bitcoin L2. But I look around, I'm like, I don't know most of these people anymore, and that's a good thing. But it's also like, while we're growing.
Yeah, and I will say I have a probably unique or hot take when it comes to ordinals. When it comes to ordinals, because I definitely do not think that Bitcoin should be a storage layer, nor what it is best served as. Do I think there is some data that might be worth preserving at that base layer? Maybe, but I don't think using ordinals for just NFTs or anything like that is quote unquote the right use case, right? Which we can get into right, not right, what's intended, what was written, that we could do that forever. I'm not really hot on using ordinals for anything outside of, again, I don't think anyone's presented any data that I think is worthy of storing on the base chain. Perhaps someday someone might bring that across the table. From my perspective, though, it's done two things really well. One, it pushed innovation and brought a lot of attention, back into Bitcoin, back into L2s. We're seeing that overflow. We're seeing a lot more developer activity, and that's all downstream from ordinals. The second use case, which I kind of like a lot more, is it gives Stacks people sort of like the moral frame when it comes to arguing with maxis. And that was before not possible, but we can now leverage the narrative where it's like, if you're a maxi and you're talking shit about like Stacks because it has a shit coin, which like, again, is a very, it's a very true criticism, but there are trade-offs to not being on the main chain, right? Like that is quite literally what that entails. The point that you can push back there now is like, who is more of the maxi? Is it the person who is only using Bitcoin, or is the person who is preserving block space for transactions? Because by using Stacks and using my little NFTs on Stacks, I'm preserving the base chain for transactions because that's what I believe it should be for. And so before, we kind of didn't have that footing, but I do think it made that narrative a lot more attractive, which in turn makes people a lot more open to trying out other L2s, whether it's Stacks, Lightning, Rootstock, Sovereign. Sovereign's part of Rootstock, but Arc, or like, any new ones that are coming out. That's, in general, that's really cool to see that narrative now coming into play.
Yeah, I kind of get. I lean to your perspective and your kind of take when it comes to ordinals. There's part of me that is like, is this really the intended use case of the chain? Yeah, it's hard to say, but there's the other side of me where it's like, well, it exists now. I don't know if we can really put the, rabbit back in the hat, sort of, so to speak. And it's like, yeah, no. It does provide an interesting discussion because some maxis kind of, they're coming around to being like, oh, the block space is so valuable. At some point in time, it's going to become so valuable where the things that will get inscribed on it, it's going to cost so much. It leads to the point too, where it's like, oh, well, if you think this is really useful, then using Stacks for all of this would just make the logical financial conclusion too. So
exactly,
I kind of weigh both of them. I'm like, the block space it's really valuable, but I'm kind of indifferent to ordinals. So you won't see me tweeting a lot about BRC20s and stuff like that. But I'm open to kind of watch the development from afar.
Same. I think they're cool experiments. I have nothing against that. If people want to speculate I've, nothing against that either. Like we all clearly have a lot of, open market attitudes that probably brought us to this space in the first place. So it is what it is, just not for me, right? I'm not a trader, I'm not a speculator. I like looking at the technology and the infrastructure and seeing, what are the opcodes for this protocol or that protocol, and how's everything working. But yeah, when it comes to ordinals, that's my general perspective on things.
I don't think it's a hot take. The business of blockchain is the block space, and over
Right.
time, it's just becoming clear that you're going to pay for more block space, and what you're paying for is going to be valuable, and it's going to be more valuable over time. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, I think our birth certificates, like passports, that could live on the main chain. I mean, a lot of the JPEGs
Nah.
right now, you don't think so?
I don't know what my birth certificate. I don't know what my passport or birth certificates live on the main chain. Personally,
No, I hear you, and I think this is what Stacks is built for. But
agreed.
what I'm saying is, like, if we're gonna have the most important stuff on the L1, it should be like super important or vital. Not to say that NFTs
yeah.
aren't, because it represents digital art.
Yeah, I've identified two properties that I think I'd hold to a criteria for data that belongs on main chain.
Mhm.
First is, critical data, and not just for one person or maybe one organization, but like maybe even just like a country or the world. And maybe the only example that I can kind of think of is like these large language models that are being open sourced at the moment. And then let's say like a regulatory body decides to like, these are too powerful for the average citizen. We need to shut down open source LLMs. That maybe I can see that being like a good use case for something we should store on the main chain, right? Because I think that is like a literal power differentiator between states, people, groups, people that, yes, we can put that back in the box. And so that should be like universally distributed. And I'm okay with like something like that being on the main chain. But I continue. One, data that is very critical. Two, data that only grows linearly. So the reason why I don't like sort of like either like identities of people or anything like that is anything that can grow exponentially, which like, population rate is over a long enough timeline. It doesn't make sense for it to be on main chain because, for obvious reasons, like the block space and, everything, et cetera, is fixed. And so those are the two properties I've thought through of like, okay, if some piece of data fits both of those, maybe. But yeah, I'm fully in your.
And I've always said, if there's like some Zcash features with privacy, and my home burned down, I would love for my birth certificate or one piece of identification to be accessible, right? Because then if you have to go to all these government organizations to retrieve, like, this is my identity, that could be a hassle. Now, I did want to ask you, how did you start Bitcoin Badgers? Are you the co-founder, or did you start it with other people?
So Newton originally started it, and then brought me, then invited me in, Newton Porter, who has been taking time to like work on design on other design gigs at the moment. He is the design genius behind all of Bitcoin Badgers, the animation, the branding, etc. And basically, he's a very close friend of mine that he's an entrepreneur as well. And we always talk about ideas. And yeah, when the NFT craze started happening, I was already in Stacks and looking at Clarity. And he mentioned, launching a collection together. And I said, if we do it on Stacks, I'm super down to help. And I'll help with like the smart contract. And
Mhm.
yeah, lo and behold, Bitcoin Badgers.
That's pretty awesome, man. You guys were also pushing the boundary on VR. Can you talk to about how you guys were thinking about it, or like
Yeah.
pushing
So
another
that
collection?
so that was a very tough project. One of our original roadmap goals was to have a game, Badger Bash, be a VR game on the Oculus. And unfortunately, like we had to pause that mainly because once Steam threw anything that had NFTs off their store, if you build any
Oh,
VR game, yeah, you have two marketplaces that you can hit, either Oculus or Steam. Oculus for sure is not going to let anything NFT related, et cetera, be on it. So fine, we were going to move forward with Steam. We were building stuff, we had released like prototypes, etc. But then Steam came out with that as well, where it yanked any game with NFTs as well and said not
mm,
available. And so at that point, unfortunately, like we got stuck on that. Hopefully, I will say I'm extremely passionate about the spatial computing space. That and Bitcoin are, have been my two pillars of passion for like the last decade. And yeah, I'm very excited to see the Apple glasses come out and what that's going to do for the ecosystem. I think, yeah, eventually we are going to see an
yeah.
intersection of NFTs and spatial computing. But for now, the gatekeepers did a really good job of keeping that closed off.
Yeah, the gatekeepers. It's you know, it's something I like to remind people about. Is like, oh well, where's all these killer apps that crypto is going to be using? It's like, well, like at the app stores and Steam and all these people were a little bit more open minded. We might have some more kind of experiments that would be in people's hands. But you can't really you can't keep us trapped in a box. We'll find a way. I mean, the whether we have to have our own operating systems or whatnot, we will eventually
Exactly.
find a way.
Exactly.
Well, I'll say,
or like,
Setzeus, I was pretty stoked because I got my Bitcoin Badger and I was like, man, I can't wait to play this game.
yeah. And hopefully, I mean, one day when if not the gatekeepers open up, if WebVR becomes more and more stable, then I'd
Mm,
consider releasing something on WebVR. But until that does, yeah, I'm probably not going to move forward on anything there.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about block space and what it could be used for. I've always thought it would be interesting to have like open source software for front ends that plug in smart contracts or open source, any sort of software. So it's like, hey, the blockchain is kind of like your app store, something like that. I think that could be pretty useful, pretty interesting.
Yeah, I have a thesis that's close to that, where I think you can maybe set up one-time purchase websites that are like zipped up and encrypted, and that like they don't stay live, but you can just like you could periodically like connect the files again to the internet and like see your data or interact, etc. But yeah, I've thought about that a lot. Like how can we decentralize front ends, because that seems to be one of like the true last barriers that we haven't worked through.
Setzeus, what are you working on right now? Are you just focused on your day job and your family, you and your beautiful wife? You guys are awesome. Are you just
Not
focused on that?
my wife, my girlfriend, but
Oh, I'm
no,
sorry. I'm sorry.
no, all good.
Uh,
Uh,
are you just focused on that right now, or are you focus on building anything?
Yeah, so I do primarily, well, I do a lot of things, but I do primarily two things. One, I'm the CTO of a sleep pediatric startup called Restfully Sleep. And yeah, that's been going on for 2-3 years. On the other side, I, along with Setburn, am run a company called Strata Labs, which is our stacks and Bitcoin L2 dev agency, which is where you see we do a lot of work. And yeah, basically all the work that's being done on Badgers now is also just being handled by that entity.
And how do you spell Strata?
STRATALABS.com.
Okay.
Or .org, actually. Check the .org.
Okay.
Yeah, let me see. It's a super simple one-page site.
Okay, this is cool. You know, I've seen this, but I didn't know it was you behind it. Tell us a little bit more.
No, yeah, this is just like the entity that we do contract work under. So there's basically 3 people that work here, or that we do consistent work with, and that's me, Setburn, and Setpato, who you can find all of this on Twitter. And yeah, I do all like the Clarity and like some Bitcoin script work. Setburn is a React master who's been doing React since it came out. And Setpato is my Clarity protege that I've been training and working with for like the last 18 months. And yeah, we do a lot of contract work, audit work. We've worked with a lot of teams, and still are. And yeah, the biggest moment, the most exciting thing that I'm working on is through a contract with Trust Machines. I am working on the SBTC protocol and doing some of the Clarity work for that. And so that is just like dream work come true, right? That is like super, super cool to be working on.
Yeah,
Dude, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dropping some alpha here.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, this is all like public and like open source in the Bitcoin Builders Discord channel. Yeah, like we're actually doing it all like public. But yeah, so that's by far the coolest thing that I'm working on at the moment. Setburn, the coolest thing that he's probably working on is Project Indigo. So like a lot of the Project Indigo updates for the last couple months have been us as well. And so yeah, that's the project we're very, very proud of, because Vandal is phenomenal to work with. He's someone who like truly has a vision and articulates it very well. And it's rare to find someone that you can work with like that. So
we had Vandal on. This was months ago for the Community Builders Edition. And I'll tell you what, they were kind of the opposite in the GameFi space, where they had some really cool art. They came from the Megapont group where they met, and they never promised a game, but they did promise that they'll deliver cool art and work on stuff. And they were like one of the only projects, just like in Web3, to like deliver on a game. And that has always impressed me. And the game is fun.
Game is fun and so polished. So polished. I love it.
So
From
good.
the game.
So good.
The design, the sound design, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. And it's just awesome to see how like they focus so much on like the storytelling, and you can tell that they've thought 10 steps ahead. It's that like they definitely think these things through, and it's like, man, this is just crazy. It's like, you had all these people in 2021 over on Ethereum that were promising, this game, that game, and it's like, I don't think they even got to like step 1A of actually producing the game. And here we are, these guys over here just killing it. And I honestly think they'll be rewarded over time. I think
I hope so. Yeah.
I think great things when attention is shined on them, it's hard for people to avoid. And so it's like as long as you build great things, I think, you know, it'll get its moment, and then at that point, it'll be hard for people to turn away.
Agreed.
Since we're on the topic of SBTC, can you tell people what it is? Why would people get excited about it?
Sure. So SBTC is basically programmable BTC. You know, short for stack. I'm not sure if it's exactly short for stacks BTC, but that's in my head. That's the canon there.
That's
and
what
it's
I thought it
basically
was.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm also not 100% sure that it's not. I just can't remember if I explicitly read that anywhere. But yeah, it's a Bitcoin. It's a truly decentralized two-way Bitcoin peg. And again, why would that excite you? Because maybe if you're trying to use your Bitcoin in a way that's not necessarily just tied to main chain, right? Which,
Right.
as we've talked about, Ethereum validated, there are numerous and increasingly numerous amounts of use cases. So
I get excited just the fact of this is going to be the first decentralized two-way peg. I think this is going to be the world's first decentralized peg.
it is on Bitcoin. I'm not sure if that's true on any other chain, but that's not my area of expertise there. So I don't want to make that claim, but on Bitcoin, I believe it is.
Yeah, lots of excitement. How do you think there's going to be some protocols adopting this? I'm sure DeFi will probably be the first one, like the Alex, StackSwap, Arcadico. Arcadico does decentralized loans, over collateralized loans.
Right.
Alex, they're the Uniswap of Bitcoin. I know Zero Authority, we're thinking about once we get the Cerulean marketplace up and running for Web3 gigs, over time we could build our treasury with Bitcoin,
With SBTC.
and then we're going to take a percentage and fund creator funds. So if anyone wants to apply for grants and the community votes on it, start building.
I love that. That's super cool. That's right. And yeah, which use cases are going to be used the most? Yeah, I wish I had more time to take a step back outside of the weeds and think on that. I would say I know custodial institutions are probably going to be the ones that are going to be signing at first, or stacking. So in terms of what protocols are going to take off first, I have no idea. But I'm just excited to see what people build on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could have like kind of very useful derivatives of like, people building like SaaS tools and things like that, where, people are making payments in Bitcoin, it gets transferred to SBTC, and then the SaaS tooling distributes that to the owners or the team, or, things like that. I think there's kind of infrastructural things like that could happen. I think the kind of the bit flows of the world, stuff like that, where you're able to use it within DeFi. The over collateralized loans is going to be pretty cool, a pretty cool use case. I know people want to do things like you see hodl hodl. You could have much more advanced versions of that, which that's kind of like Aave or things like that. But yeah, I think kind of the sky's the limit. I'm really excited for what we're going to do, because it's like there's so many people that are just so used to, there's so many people that have a Bitcoin wallet, and like there's so many people that want to either get work done or earn some money on the side. And for them to just be able to experience just kind of some simple logic used with their Bitcoin to kind of ensure trust. They don't have to trust us to hold on to it or custody it or anything like that. I think just some simple things like that could really unlock people's thought processes with how to use Bitcoin and why is it superior than using your Visa or what have you.
You know, one thing too, we had a recent podcast with Jack Ben Switch. He's a phenomenal writer.
The writer, right.
Yep, writes on Seigel, and now he's writing on Flagship, Bitcoin and Stacks and NFTs. He's just been phenomenal to watch his journey. But what I was going to say is, I think the biggest thing that I get excited for what we're building is that we don't control any of this. It's your data. You should have control over your data for the work history you've done and earn the reputation. So many of us are like working in this ecosystem and we're known as Setzeus, HODL Stacks, Zero, Jack Ben Switch, you know, there's Hero Gamer. There's so many people and we've earned so much like reputation. We haven't done it on chain. And this is going to be one of those first times where we could earn it on chain.
Well, that's where Trajan comes in as well. Right?
Trajan too.
Also helping with that. Yeah.
Trajan too. We love what Ragnar's built. And this is like the early, it feels like the early signs of like on-chain reputation and credibility through on-chain. And I think the paradigm is shifting.
Yeah, I think that's one of the numerous use cases that is very, very valid. And is it valid? And is it, again, does it fit the two like properties for main chain? No. But is that valid enough data that should be kept, in a decentralized way where you can take your reputation with you, et cetera, et cetera? Yeah, definitely.
By the way, when we get up on testnet and we're almost there, but we would love for you to help test this and find some bugs or try to break it. Sure.
Yeah, we're kind of sending it around to all the folks we chat with and talk to, and yeah, we're slowly and steadily getting there, and it's fun to see. But yeah,
it's a grind. Launching anything is a grind.
It's a grind, man. It's a grind.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm glad we're not in that period of time where it's like everybody and their brother is launching a banana swap, sushi swap, and it's like, geez, like when all that stuff was going on in the bull market, I could only imagine what the people trying to build anything like that would really feel. It feel like you were probably always too late, always too long, never enough features. It just to feel like you're ahead of the curve and you're able to kind of build on something and you kind of that the masses will come. It's just a matter of
right, of having faith in the thesis.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of look at it too. It's like it's a conundrum for the growth of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's supposed to be digital money, it should inherently have some sort of programmability functionality at some point in the future, exactly. Or else it's going to reach a kind of plateau. And so whether it's stacks or something else, these things are going to happen at some point. And it would make sense for them to happen, fairly soon so that Bitcoin could start riding that early stage of a growth curve again. So
speaking of building, you've been doing a lot of building and you've actually put some developer content together. I know I've been using it just to understand clarity, try to do some more coding. HODL Stacks has been coding and doing boot camps. That's where the world is going. Nice. Building on blockchain, building on Bitcoin. I mean, building on Ethereum, wherever you want to build, but it's the future. How did you get started, Setzeus? And what made you do the 100 Days of Clarity?
Yeah, the 100 Days of Clarity, I just saw room in the market. Like I saw that no one had launched any really good video tutorials for clarity. There's, you know, the clarity book, which Marvin wrote, which is basically the Holy Grail. But outside of that, like, no one made an equivalent video wise. And so I saw that opportunity gap and I said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and try to fill that by doing the series, Why 100 Days. I just threw out a ridiculous number to myself and committed to it. And
love that, man.
Yeah, it was terrible, but I got through it. I never made video content before, by the way, and I did everything myself. So yeah.
When you're editing video content, it is challenging, especially like on the first time you're doing it.
Yeah. But I do have like one of my codes is you don't outsource or delegate what you haven't done yourself. And so the next time I make a video tutorial series, or, you know, Stratolabs makes one, I won't be doing a lot of those things myself, but I at least now know what I don't know, right? And how to judge someone, how to hire someone, how to write up what we need, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, I love that mantra. That's that helps fill in the gaps of it's what do they say? The unknowns which you don't know about.
The unknown unknowns. Yeah. You need to uncover the unknown unknowns.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just love this video series. Like you said, Marvin's Bible on clarity has been like the top ranked source. I know people have always reached out to me, to Huddle Stacks, and say, hey, I'm building this thing or working on this thing for clarity. Can you help me? And I'm like, I don't have enough time. I have a daughter and a wife, and try to do bedtime at a certain hour and do full-time work. As you know, you guys know, it's just hard to manage a full schedule of stuff to do and then like squeeze in helping others too. I would love to help more people. The best way we can do that is share what you're doing, Setzeus, and share what all the builders are doing and who the builders are and where the resources are. And that's where we feel like we can give back to this community.
Yeah, and you guys have, you know, done a phenomenal job of it. So
appreciate that, man.
Yeah, thanks.
We have a couple more minutes. Go ahead, James.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask Setzeus, you know, what excites you? I know you mentioned SBTC and all that, but what excites you? What are you looking out towards here in the next few months?
In what, like life wise, or like Bitcoin wise, stocks wise, or like
I mean, we can expand it to life wise if you want. I mean, but we whatever,
yeah,
you know, if you want to.
If you guys want some real interesting alpha, and again, this is also public if people are paying attention. So this has been shared elsewhere, but oh, I can't send messages. No, I'm gonna send you a DM for a link right now.
Okay.
That you can then share in the chat, and you can click into. 1 second.
I was gonna say, oh man, we're about to get some offline alpha. Gary Gensler better look out. You know?
Oh no! Oh no!
No fun, Gary is yeah.
By the way, Setzeus, really appreciate those kind words, man. It just makes me feel so good that someone like you appreciates what we're doing, because we see all of the content that you've produced over the last couple of years, and we just respect the hell out of what you've built and what you've been doing.
Nah, man, you guys build community. I'm too inconsistent to build community. Like I'm too like I like working on so many things that like I end up being just not good at like something like just doing the simple but like effective community building things. So yeah, I mean, we need both type of builders for
We do.
this network to work. So it's equally appreciated.
All right, let me check that out. And
yeah, and basically
we have a Figma.
Yeah, so for Strata Labs, all we do is, well, the majority of all we do is.
Can I share this on the live stream?
Contracting. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
All right. Hey, for the listeners and people on the record, you can tap on that link, just shared it on the live stream. And let me open this.
And yeah, basically this is our first internal product that we're rolling out.
Okay, so I hit the play button.
Oh, you hit the play button. Okay, cool. Did I send that? Or interesting. Okay, cool.
This is what
that works
does when it plays.
Yeah.
Here, let me...
that works. That works. I'll just walk you through it. I'll walk you through it. Cool. So as you can see by the landing page, this is a very constrained, very MVP, very guardrailed Bitcoin script IDE. So if you want to practice writing Bitcoin script, learn about it, this is where you would go. And so this is showing you an example of, right now we're going to walk through. Yeah. I set up the demo. So like, definitely let me guide you through that, because you're not going to be able to go back. Really.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a Bitcoin script IDE, where if you want to learn about any of the opcodes, which are just, functions or programs for Bitcoin script, or if you want to learn about any of the most common Bitcoin scripts or experiment with them, this is where you can go. So
how are people learning today, Setzeus?
You wouldn't believe this, but there are fewer resources for learning Bitcoin script than there are for learning Clarity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I've found it challenging, because I wanted to learn some Bitcoin scripting, and I've gone to GitHub, and I'm like, man, where are the resources to learn this stuff?
BitScript. You're looking at them. This is where they're all going to live. I'm building exactly that, like the place where you can find all the documentation, you can write it, you can, etc. So, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, walking you through it, go ahead and click that first row. So for example, we're now clicking and we're looking at pay to public key hash, right? Which is obviously one of the most popular transactions. So you see, going top to bottom, the name of the script, right? You could click on a latest on-chain example and it would take you to a transaction. Yeah. Or you can read the description. Yeah, wait, don't click around. Yeah, let me guide you through it, because at some points it's going to get stuck. Yeah. This is like wired in a very weird way. Yeah, so walking you through it, you see the description, and then underneath it, you see a review on the opcodes that go inside pay to public key hash, right? And as you can see the message there, it says pay to public key hash requires 3 pieces of data and 4 opcodes. And so right below it, you can see that there are 3 fields for the 3 pieces of the data that you need, which are signature, public key, and a hashed key. And then
remind us and the viewers, what are opcodes for Bitcoin?
Opcodes are basically like the functions, or it's what you call functions in Bitcoin script. So for example, if you wanted to add 2 numbers or multiply 2 numbers, both of those operations we call opcodes. That's it. And we can actually see all the opcodes to the right. And so in that entire black rectangle, we see signature, public key, dupe, hash 60, etc., equal verify, check sig. And so those are all the actual opcodes in pay to public key hash. And so now, for example, you're a new user, you want to learn about this. We're going to go ahead and step through this function. So now you can click on the bottom row, the bottom rectangle.
Right here?
That one. Yeah. And as you can see, yeah, it's showing, okay, now we're on the second opcode, which on the left, you can see all we're doing now is we're pushing the public key onto the stack, which is like the stack is where the script is basically interpreted and how it's calculated. And so we can go to the next step. If you click the bottom rectangle again. Yeah, that same box. Boom. Yep. And now you're seeing what happens when you run.
Cool.
Yep. And so now you're starting
there's no other way to like visually see what's going on either.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. And I just threw a tiny URL link, tinyurl.com Setzeus, and it'll have the Figma link. And we'll share this on Twitter and Instagram too. This is awesome. I've been looking for something like this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really
yeah, and then you can just continue clicking through it, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, and it would just take you through the entire script.
Yeah, you have the whole trail here. It's really nice.
Right. And then I think you can click opcodes in navigation all the way to the top. And then it would take you. No, okay. You need to click there. Right. And now it should take you. You should be able to click it. Oh no, one more time. Click in that blue area that just flashed. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So now if you wanted to learn just about opcodes now, you could start down this path and you can see right there, like starts telling you the opcode, the description, how many inputs it takes, how many outputs it takes, the category of opcode, etc.
This is super helpful, man.
Thank you.
How could someone use this if they're interested in building on stacks and Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's the vision far down the line. But the vision far down the line is this turns into an IDE where you can run from Bitcoin down into the L2s as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to like write script and clarity and then simulate how like one Bitcoin block happens and the stacks blocks happens, which happens at each level, etc. Yeah. I want to create a sandbox for writing Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, this is going to be incredibly useful for people. I can already see that. Yeah, where you're headed with it. It's going to be really, really important for people building, and I appreciate you doing this. This is a great this is a great tool.
Thank you.
Setzeus, do you have any insight into the Nakamoto release and what's coming and how fast like hyperchains is going to be?
I do not have the latest on that work group. I know that there is a Nakamoto work group and that they're doing their thing.
Okay.
But no, I've been much more isolated in SBTC. So anything that you've seen publicly about Nakamoto is probably the latest.
All right. Yeah, this is just blowing my mind. I'm like, wow, this is so clean, useful, and helpful.
Yeah, I super appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, it's a problem that we obviously are seeing as contractors ourselves working on Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2 things. And so, yeah, we see there's an opening in the market here and we were working on this and we actually applied for it. We actually applied for a grant with it. So fingers crossed that we get it.
Yeah, I can't see why you wouldn't. I know the grants had slowed down during the early phase of the year, but it's picked up substantially.
Yeah, and I know they're very interested in things helping to grow kind of the use cases of Bitcoin and all of that, and something like this would be a huge building block for that.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's I want it to be a hub for development on Bitcoin.
What are some other developer resources where people can go and learn about Clarity or Bitcoin? Where do you go, Setzeus?
I go to the Clarity book, but if the Clarity book doesn't have a question, I go to Friedger these days. Like Friedger is Friedger is the shoulder, like the giant whose shoulders I'm standing on for sure.
Yeah, we all go to Frieger.
Yeah.
It's like the Oracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, well, this has been awesome, Setzeus. Thanks so much for the time today. Really appreciate what you just showed us, and super stoked to see you build this, man.
Thank you, and thank you for the support. And yeah, I'll definitely I'll keep you guys updated on everything. And I'm happy you guys liked it, because yeah, we're definitely going to start talking about it more and more publicly. And fingers crossed we get a grant for it. So, and yeah, happy to
I'm
come
pretty
back
sure
on.
we'll approve this.
Happy to come back on whenever. Also, like this is cool, and yeah, you guys are a key part of the community. So continue doing your thing
Yeah,
as
I
well.
really appreciate that.
Yeah, and yeah, please feel free if to check out what we're building, and not from like a work standpoint, of course, just like if you want to just check it out or whatever, as just a pleb like us, that's cool. It would be cool too to see if I'm sure you guys have your workflows already set up with Strata Labs, but if you guys would want to give it a go on our marketplace, we'd love to see that happen too. So
yeah, I mean, we can yeah, if we're talking recreationally, if I have time, definitely. If you guys are looking for an audit or a light audit, definitely happy to do that as well. But yeah, either way, I'm looking very much forward to this Cerulean marketplace, and yeah, seeing people get paid in Bitcoin for their services.
Yeah, I can't wait till that day, man, when someone sends us a tweet and said, I just got paid in Bitcoin for this service. That's just going to be awesome. Well, hey, Setzeus, thanks so much for your time today, brother. We're going to share all of those resources and really appreciate what you're building and progressing in the community, man.
Please do, and yeah, thank you, and thank you guys for the time as well. And I'll see you guys around for sure.
Yeah, can't wait to have you on again.
Of course.
yeah, take care.
See you guys.
Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Thanks for supporting the community. Remember why you started.